the Leon Charney Report. And now, here is your host, Leon Charney.
Welcome to another Leon Charney Report, a high-production television series. We've been on for 9 years. We got Allen King with us, no introduction necessary. One of the finest comedians the world's produced in this century, and the century's closing out. Alan's still going to be with us for another 30 years, although he krechs a lot. He complains a lot about the way he feels.
It's true.
Alan, I saw you at the Concord Hotel July 4th weekend.
Yeah.
You were brilliant.
Thank you.
And it was a takeoff on your book?
Well, it is. I'm getting to the point in my life now where I'm not about to talk about trying to get a doctor in the middle of the night or an insurance company or lawyers. I've been doing that all my life. And I thought that in writing my book, I thought what I do in my concerts now is I start at the beginning. And I go right up to my arthritis, so I cover everything.
It's brilliant. The name of the book is Name Dropping?
Name Dropping, yeah. The Life and Lies of Allen King. The reason for lies is, I've been telling some stories for so long, I don't remember if they're true, But it was a good life.
But you're not over. I mean,
no,
we had Abby Eben on last week. He's 83 or 84 years old.
I'm going to be 70.
And he's brilliant, and you don't look 70.
I'm going to be. But,
Is it psychological?
No. What I think, and I've been doing this for so long, 55 years actually as a pro, that my audiences who grew up with me, first it was in the suburbs, first it was with the marriage and then the kids, and then it was the suburbs, then it was all the complaints that everybody had, And I think, growing up with me, I think they all got aches and pains, and I think they get a kick out of me telling them, all about my aches and pains. Oh, I see the young audiences laughed at it because their parents, their aunts, and their uncles are complaining the same way. And I've always been a complainer about everything, all my life. And so they say, oh, yeah. And the biggest kick I get out of it is when I talk about whatever it may be, and the wife gives the husband a shot. That's you. I mean, I did a show in Florida where, my kind of people, they came in, with aluminum walkers, wheelchairs. No, I'm not making fun of it, but I got the biggest laugh. I opened, I said, if I get a standing ovation tonight, this will really be a miracle. I think they know me so long.
You're right. You grew up with all the generations.
Yeah.
You won't believe this, but I was an MC at the Leibowitz Pineview in 1960-something, and I introduced you. You won't remember it, but you remember.
It wasn't memorable.
The introduction on the show.
Leon, I have worked places that amaze me. That people come up to me and say, I saw you, and names of, I've been doing it for so long. But it's good. I've got their children now. I love when somebody comes over to me, and they give me things like, didn't you used to be Allen King? Or I had one woman say, didn't you used to be famous? I said, yes. She said, who are you? I said, Ernest Hemingway. She said, I knew it was somebody like that. So it's fun.
But people don't know that you really started off as a singer?
Well, I started off as I did singing impressions when I went with Major Bowes. I did a song called Brother Can You Spare a Dime, the song of the Great Depression, and toured with the Major. And then, you can't make a living singing Brother Can You Spare a Dime. So I started doing, impressions of Jolson, things I always did on the street corners. It was Jolson, and there was Cantor, and there was Bing Crosby. And, so that's how I started. And then I also was a musician as a youngster, had a little band, and then we tumbled, And I got a job in the Catskill Mountains. And I was 15. And I worked at a Hotel Gratis.
Gratis?
That was the name of the hotel. And my opening night.
I thought you worked for nothing.
Well, that's my opening night, Hotel Gratis in Fallsburg. And my opening night is when you work for gratis, you work for gratis. And then somebody explained to Mr. Gratis what I meant, and he threw me out of the hotel. So I really did get my training in the Catskill Mountains. I'm amused, Leon. A lot of my contemporaries either deny or make light of the fact that they came out of the Catskills. It was a great training ground.
You came out of there, Buddy Hackett came out of there, Red Buttons came out of there.
Jan Murray, it goes on.
Shecky Green came out of there,
Phil
Jay
Foster.
Murray, Phil Foster, everybody.
Oh, the list is endless. And others in show business that went on, that started as busboys. I mean, Arthur Miller, great American playwright, told me that he was a waiter at the Falls View. He learned how to eat a lamb chop when the people used to leave the lamb because they never fed the waiters. So he said he learned to eat what was left on a lamb chop on the way to the kitchen like a harmonica. He used to give it one. This is Arthur Miller talking about the Catskill Mountains.
It's a little weak up there now. I mean, hotels are changing. Where do young comics store today?
Well, there was a time when there was a saloon and a comedy club on every corner. Of course, that's long past. But there's so many places for young people to work. The problem is that with cable, you get up in the middle of the night to relieve yourself, and you come back. There's a guy doing jokes on television. I mean, 4 a.m. Give us a break, But the cable is. I think it's just a little too much now. And these kids are being exposed early without the training that they should have. And I think there are going to be a lot of broken hearts. But I mean, the cream will rise. Every generation has its stars.
So in 50 years, and you've been on every show that was created on television, you had Sullivan, Carson, Parr. Which was
goes on and on.
Yeah, which was the most? What do you think? The impressive show on America?
Well, of course, Ed Sullivan was what Ed Sullivan did was what my father and I, as a kid, went to see at Lowe State or the Palace. It was a vaudeville show,
right? And
I think Ed, and the fact that he had such longevity. I think he was on something like 28 years, and nobody knew what he did.
They still on. His son-in-law was Bob Preston.
Bob Preston was the producer of the show. And I remember the great Fred Allen, who was one of our most incredible wits, once said about Ed Sullivan 2 things. He said he lights up a room by leaving it. And the other line Fred Allen said he doesn't know what Ed Sullivan does, but he knows that a door could do the same thing if you rub meat on the actor. He says he was a pointer. But he was very bright. He was a great journalist. And that's the success of the show. If he heard about a singing nun in Belgium, he was on the next plane. He booked, so he scooped everybody.
He ran around.
He just
he had Elvis Presley, had Beatles.
It just went on and on. He scooped everybody.
Did he pay decently?
Oh yeah, it was a top-paying show.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, no, there were no favors. That's why he got so mad with Parr and with Carson, because he felt that he was paying top dollar and they'd go on air for $225. So there was kind of a feud going on at that time. That's and he said he wouldn't have anybody that went on the show come on his show for the big bucks. They settled it. But Ed was a tough guy, a good guy, but tough.
Did you enjoy doing Parr and Carson shows?
I loved it.
How about Joe Franklin's show?
Joe Franklin. Did I ever do that? Am I old enough? No. I did Joe in another life. I liked Parr. I loved Parr because Parr was bright. Besides being bright, well, obviously you got to be bright. I've always said that comedians, humorists have to be bright. Singers can be dumb. All you do is sing Gershwin or Porter. But not that they're all dumb. I know Tony Bennett's going to call me. I've said this before. Tony Bennett says we're not dumb. I said I didn't say all of you are, but I love Tony obviously. But with Parr, you never knew what to expect. There was always that little edge. Even though he was so laid back, And Parr was a very courageous guy, He took on a lot of guys that no one had the guts to do. And then after Parr, Johnny Carson, when Carson came on, he came from another world. He was a Midwestern boy. Nebraska. And I think he felt challenged by my ilk, my group, the Buddy Hackett's and the guys that came up as I did. And I don't think he was very comfortable with us. And I once did a story for TV Guide when Johnny left. And the name of the story was the first time he looked in my eyes. When I went on the show, he'd never look at me. He'd always be looking off, and I could gather that he was always thinking of what he was going to say, and it was very uncomfortable. And then one night, Johnny was a bad drinker, and he stopped. This is many years ago. He was at a party, and he was not in good shape. I took him home, and we kibitzed, and the next time I went on the show, he looked me right in the eyes. I'd been on the show 10 times before, and we became good friends, and he was as funny as Johnny could be. He was a great straight man. He fed you. He knew he could feel your timing. He was remarkable.
But he was distant all the time, wasn't he?
Distant? Not on the show.
No, as a person. Well, he wanted his
he
privacy.
was very private. Yeah, he was a very private guy. But, well, I mean, when I ran my tennis tournament in Las Vegas, he'd come down for the last 4 days, you know, and get on the microphone. And, you know, so he was good fun.
Yeah, I can't blame him.
Yeah,
I mean,
he wanted his privacy.
It's tough to have privacy.
Right.
Look at Princess Diana, right? And what's going on.
Well, that's a shocking thing.
What do you think of this paparazzi business? Do you think it's true or untrue?
Well, I think a lot of it is true. I think this is a very dangerous game they now play. But then on the other hand, you know me, I'm very Talmudic. I can take any side of an argument. I got two answers for every question.
That's why we love you. That's why we love you.
No, but I think on the other hand, you know, these young people who become well known, who are given this kind of ridiculous coverage by by this pulp, you know, by these rags, they become popular from them. So you can't have it both ways. But I do think that something's got to be done. I know freedom of the press, but
so what would happen if all the paparazzi went on strike? And
I think a lot of people would breathe easier.
But a lot of people would be upset too.
Yeah, a lot of people are upset because of the publicity. A lot of you look at look at these young girls who come out there almost naked. They're waiting to be seen on the front page of these supermarket tabloids.
Yeah, I'm going to go along with the freedom of the press, and I think that there's more to it. Probably something with the driver out there. We spoke about it a lot, but if you don't want press, I think there are ways you can dodge it unless you're royalty. I mean, they're all over you, but you know, you don't have to go 150 miles an hour.
Yeah,
to dodge
well, no, I'm not. I'm not. That is not. I think it was just a great tragedy, and you know, blame and blame and blame. But I do think that paparazzis, there should be some control over, over the way they behave.
You've played a lot in London, haven't you?
Oh, sure. I would say that my first real success came in London with Judy Garland in 1956. And I played the Dominion Theatre. We were there 16 weeks. And I was very popular in London. And but I'm a comedian. What do they want from me? I married 50 years to the same girl. You know, I once knew a hooker in Cleveland and she's dead. I mean, what are they going to write about me? I pay my taxes.
The one thing about you is, you're very creative. And I hope you've done well financially,
yes,
which a lot of people of your colleagues in ilk have not always done well. And two, you've been very expressive about your Judaism from day one. You've never tried to hide it. You never try to play around. Well, there are people who
I wear it like a badge of honor.
You know, Carson's name may be Kontrovich. I don't know.
No, let's not go that far. There were no Jews in Nebraska. Or maybe
they had a store. They had a store there, believe me.
No, my Jewishness, as you well know, Leon, it's not something that I conceived. It was just, I was raised, immigrant parents during the Depression. My grandfather was an itinerant rabbi. My mother was a very Orthodox woman. My father was an atheist, so I got the best of both.
It's true, by the way. The son of every rabbi is usually an atheist.
Well, anything that my mother and her family were for, my father was against, including God. But he was really, what we call about Yiddishkeit. My father really was a Jew, because my father was a Zionist. My father was an agnostic. He was a great liberal. He was a socialist, and hated communism. I mean, as you well know, the socialists, everyone seems to put socialism and communism, they were opposites. They were fierce enemies. But my father was a mensch. He believed in, the rights of the individual. He really read the Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence. He knew what it was all about. And he saw injustice, and he did something about it. He made speeches on a street corner. And
was he a naturalized citizen?
Naturalized. He came here when
my father was naturalized, and he worshipped those citizen papers.
Oh, my father.
He kept it right up front in a closet. He was so proud of it. My father.
And then my father became a New Deal Democrat. When I was a kid, we had a picture of Moses on the Mount and Franklin Roosevelt, and I didn't know who came first or who was more important. They side by side. I always remember that. So I had the best upbringing. It was remarkable, large family, and my father had to give up. My mother and father had to give up the home during the Depression. We moved in with my grandfather. But it was great. I said I didn't know I was poor until I got rich. I thought everybody slept 4 on the bed, I really mean it, and I say this with great satisfaction. I had the best time as a kid, although I left home when I was 15, and I was in show business.
What was their feeling about you going into show business?
Oh, my father thought it was terrific. And my mother, till the day she died, she was waiting me to get a day job,
Pat Cooper was on the show 2 weeks ago with Renee Taylor. And Pat Cooper's father did not want to accept the fact that his son was going to be a comic, and he went nuts. Pat changed his name. I don't know what his real name was, but he changed it, and that was the end of the world.
My father was, he became so American so quickly. And, the vaudeville, and my father was a great lover of Jolson and Richmond and Jessel and Cantor, and all Jack Benny, and the marvelous thing about it is that my father lived long enough. Both parents lived. My father was 96, my mother was 91. Mm-hmm. The great thing about it that was my father lived to see me in that environment and to see my success.
That's great.
He loved Frank Sinatra, and Frank loved my father. Frank, didn't get along with his father. His father was a tough guy. He adored his mother, but yet he loved his father, but his father was tough on him. And my father looked just like his father.
Really?
Yeah, just like he should. And he used to call, Bernie used to say, I opened in Las Vegas at the Sands Hotel the same night that Frank opened at Caesar's Palace. My father came to visit me, his first trip. I took him over to see Frank at the rehearsal. I'm looking for my father opening night. He's not sitting there. He's watching Frank. And I get a call, come on over. He's sitting there with all the chorus girls, all the boys, Jilly, the whole, the gang. And my father said, sit down, have a drink. I said, Woody, I'm waiting for you. He said, Francis wanted to see me.
Did your father read Yiddish newspapers?
Oh, sure. Forwards, of course.
The Forward, huh?
Oh, sure.
How about English newspapers?
Read everything. When I was a kid, we had 11 newspapers in New York.
Is that right?
11.
Journal American.
Well, let's not go, but we had 11 publications, including PM and the Brooklyn Eagle, and the Tribune and the Herald. But my father always used to say to me that you got to read the papers, and then you form an opinion. You see, you read every editorial. And my father would come home, and everybody would be around a table, and he'd start with us. All right. What do you think about what the Secretary of State said today? Who knows what? My mother said, what's everybody fighting? My mother only wanted to eat quiet, be nice, eat, don't. My father would stimulate the entire family by questioning, He was a great man.
All right, we'll be right back after a break. Come back with Allen King. It's a pleasure to talk with him. He's a scholar, a gentleman, and a funny man. And we can talk about his films and other things. Don't leave us. We're back. We're speaking with Allen King. Needs no introduction. You've probably seen him many places in the last 50, 55 years, including a lot of films. I remember a film you did with Ally McGraw. What was the name of the film?
Just Tell Me What You Want, one of my favorites. It was directed by Sidney Lumet. I played one of the richest men in America and one of the biggest heels that ever lived. And my wife said he's been rehearsing for that part for years.
You get royalties on these?
Yeah, sure. I just got I did Anderson tapes for Sidney Lumet many years ago. One of the first pictures for Sean Connery. I just got a check today for $40.18.
Well, that's taxable.
That's right. No, we do get residuals.
Really? If you put them into a company now, you get a capital gain if you sell the stock under the new law.
All right, I'll check with you. I know you're the guy knows all those tricks. Every shtick I know that.
Film, comedy, nightclubs, plays.
I've done Broadway shows. I produced Broadway shows.
Which is the most exciting? Live audiences?
Well, I think so. Yeah. I just never felt that standing up saying good evening, ladies and gentlemen, was just enough. I felt that I had obligations to myself, intellectually, that there was other things I wanted to do. But with all the things that I've attempted to do, some of them successfully and others not, I think still standing up with a live audience, feeling that power. I always used to, when young people talk and lecture at schools and things, what is that? The sense of power. I feel like Toscanini up there. I'm conducting an audience,
Oh, it's true. You're right.
And it's great. It's great satisfaction. It's great, and it's very rewarding. It's really what I do. My old man used to hear me going into different business. He used to say to me, "You're still pulling the cart, aren't you?" Meaning,
it goes on live shows.
Yeah, meaning you're still doing the comedy. Don't stop becoming, we used to be, say, one of those Goyser producers, You remember the jokes is what got you here, So I still do at least 50 shows a year. And then I'm in Atlantic City next week, and then in October I'm at Westbury. So I do more than my share.
It keeps you in touch with the flavor.
Oh, I gotta have it. I got to.
It's like a drug.
I don't know if it's a drug, because drugs are bad for you. This is good for me. I mean, this is
it's a good drug.
It's a feel good, you know. It's and then the idea is that somebody still calls up and says, "Are you available?" You know.
You remember Joe Kipnis?
What I mean, I know Joe was a great pal of
He
mine.
did a play called Applause.
Yeah.
Remember that play?
Very well.
That's what basically performers need. They need that.
I think you need the adoration.
Look, obviously you don't need the money. You're very successful, and thank God, I'm happy for you. You've produced films. You've been in films. You've done anything in life you want to do. You could sit back and smoke cigars, which you used to do.
I don't do it anymore.
But you want to be active, and it's that feeling of touching people, make them feeling good, make them laugh, and make them feel...
Yeah, it's a reciprocal thing, you know.
Absolutely.
It's very reciprocal, and... What I like doing is watching them laugh at me.
Of course.
You know, and with the lights, I can still see that front, you know, and to see the reaction. If they agree with something, I say something profound, you know. Oh, you know.
It's absolutely gratifying. People ask me why I continue to do this show. Same thing. And I meet people in the street who look forward every Sunday to taping this show and hearing what we have to say, especially when we get into a discourse on the Middle East. They don't feel they're getting the facts. And there's no television today that you can really just kibitz like you and I and get truth out. I mean, you get 3 seconds.
This is the way to get the truth out of people.
That's
free form, free speaking.
That's right.
No, there's not a question on that.
No, nothing. Just the name of your book.
That's right.
And the name of your new film, Family of Orphans.
Yeah, where I play a made man again. Nice Jewish boy like me. I played more mafiosos. I think I got killed in about 4 pictures. This one, at least, I just fade out. I'm an old mafia who comes out of retirement to do something good for a young boy. But I have a bad heart in the picture. So, I mean, when the picture says the end, then I'd probably die 2 days later. You know, I was shot. I was taken out in Casino with De Niro and Joe Pesci. I played one of the Teamster guys and got hit. Oh, I loved it. It was the most athletic death Marty Scorsese says, "Can you jump higher in the air when they hit?" You know. And
it's in his film?
It was Scorsese. No, not Family of Orphans. Casino was Marty Scorsese.
Casino.
Yeah.
And what about this one?
This is directed by a very brand new, young, talented boy named John Doria. And it's low budget, you know, which means you don't get too much money. But I did it because it's good fun, you know. They're all young people, all young Broadway actors, you know, in the picture. And we did it, you know, almost with a brownie, you know, but it's a real good film.
You enjoy filmmaking?
I love filmmaking, but I don't want to, you know.
But why?
It can get very boring.
You did 10, 15, 20 takes?
Yeah, but the discipline is very important in your life. The fact, you know, the stage is an actor's medium.
Right.
But film is a director's medium, and it's up to the director to see if he can get the same performance out of you if he does 20 takes. And good directors obviously are able to do that. It's a lot of sitting around.
I did a film with Geraldine Chaplin in a lot, and Anna Karina, and I sat around, I started to sing cantorial music to her. She became my best friend. She admitted to me that Charlie Chaplin was Jewish. I'll bet you never knew that.
Oh, sure I did.
You did?
My mother told me everybody was Jewish. My father tried to convince me Jesse Owens was Jewish. No, I knew Chaplin.
You did?
I didn't know that I think one of his parents were Jewish.
Right, and it was the first time on that set. After we sang cantorial music, and she started to cry. I said, "Why are you crying?" "Oh, you know," she says, "my father, I haven't advanced this to anyone yet."
Why do Jews play the game? I guess everybody does. Italians play the game of who's Italian, and you know, in
everybody
fame.
Does.
And the Jews want, you know.
If you were a Jew in 1940, 50, if Koufax was a ball player, oh my God, he's Jewish.
And he wouldn't pitch on Yom Kippur.
Luckman, yeah,
Sid Luckman was my idol. Right. I remember years. Sid's still a great friend of mine. I remember Bob Hope became ill this many years ago, and he was supposed to do the Football Hall of Fame dinner at the Waldorf. And at the last minute, I got a call. Would I do it? And they were honoring Byron, you know, Whizzer White, you know, who was
Buzzer White, Supreme Court.
Court.
He was a big football player.
Well, great, one of the greats, right. Whizzer White. And I got there and I had a cocktail party, and all my heroes, all my idols were standing there. And I was on television, and they all came over to me. And the guy came over and says, "You don't know me, but I'm a big fan of yours." I said, "Sidney Luckman, huh?" I says, I had your picture over my bed when I was 9 years old, when he played at Columbia and then went to the bench. So it's, everybody likes that. You remember a guy by the name of Ace Goldberg?
Yes.
And there was Ace Parker, and there was Goldberg. And again, going back to what we were saying, you take great pride in, oh yeah, he's Italian, Oh yes, he's Irish,
You know how many people call me and find out Joe Franklin is Jewish? And he's coming on a show to admit it later.
Joe Franklin is Jewish? I thought his first name was Cohn.
But that's the way we respond.
I think so, and I think that's good.
Is he Jewish?
Little pride,
They're trying to find out if Al Gore is Jewish today. They're trying to find Bill Clinton some Jewish blood. Everybody's trying to get Jewish.
Well, they found out about our Secretary of State in a
Albright, Madeleine Albright, and Cohen, Secretary of Defense, was born Jewish until his bar mitzvah, and he got offended by some rabbi, and he left it.
Probably didn't get enough money from his relatives.
Right,
they hit him with the raisin in the bags,
Harold Brown was Jewish, Secretary under President Carter, Secretary of Defense. I got a list yesterday. There's a Carter reunion, and I work with them on Camp David, and they sent me a list of all the Jews that were in the administration of Carter. And you could make 3 Chabad minions out of these people. Yeah, unbelievable.
Well, Jews in government and Jews in.
But that's the way we used to count. The Supreme Court had a Jewish seat.
There was a Jewish seat. That's right.
Now there's 2 Jews on the Supreme Court, Beyer and Bader.
Right.
Sounds like a law firm, doesn't it?
Or an act.
Beyer and Bader. But is that? There's a theory now, and we've talked a lot about it on this show. In New York Magazine, a fellow named Craig Hurwitz did a piece on are Jews going to survive into the next millennium. And the theory is that all conservative and Reform Jews basically are assimilating, and therefore the only people that remain are Hasidim.
I don't agree.
I don't agree. Guys like you.
I don't agree. I mean, I have all the respect in the world for those who observe the Orthodox beliefs. But you can't take you can't take a Jewishness out. I don't care who he marries. If he marries a Martian, there's something about there's something about our heritage. With the next millennium. I mean, we've survived. I remember once I was at a dinner. It was a big Jewish organization, and President Kennedy was the guest speaker. I was a Toastmaster. And I knew him very well from, when he was a senator, and through Judy Garland, they were great pals. And I said to him at the end of the thing, I made him an honorary Jew, I said. And he laughed. And I said, that entitles you to 2,000 years of retroactive persecution. And he thought, he loved that. He said, he loved that. But no, I'm not for assimilation. I'm not for anything that weakens our people. But it's going to happen. It happens. People do marry out of the faith. But we've been around so long, that
I agree with you. I don't think
the pogroms and the Holocaust. If we survived, we will survive.
And I don't think you can plot it statistically.
No.
Nor do I think you can put it on a computer.
No,
it's just in your guts. It's visceral.
Do you know what's happening now? I'm sure you're well aware of it. Do you know that there is this tremendous renaissance of young people, so-called baby boomers, who grew up without religion, coming back to the faith, in all religions, because you wake up in the middle of the night, there are a few questions that you can't answer yourself, and I think the comfort, of a religious basis is very comforting. It helps you through life. I really do.
Well, it's a philosophy of religion, and based on that, and philosophy of life. And look at your Talmudic knowledge. You probably wouldn't be a great comic without it.
My grandfather was a Talmudic student.
All right, we'll cut for a break. We'll come right back with Allen King. It's a lot of fun. It's fascinating, and he's really a pleasure to be with, and I don't say that very often.
Thank you.
We're back. We're talking with Allen King. Allen, how do you tell the difference between a Jew and a Gentile?
When a Gentile calls you a smuck. But the Yiddish language has become so much a part of our English language or our daily, people don't even know. People don't even know. Because some of our words are so descriptive, just from the sound of them, And so I get a kick out of hearing people use using Jewish expressions and not knowing they're Jewish.
I'm going to tell you a fascinating story. We travel a lot with Clinton, President Clinton, when he makes these trips. As part of the show, we like to bring the show to the people. He has a fellow works for him from Arkansas who never saw a Jew in his life, and he became very familiar with me in Egypt. And it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. We had nothing to do. And he's about to possibly become the executive aide to the President of the United States. That means you have more face time than anybody else in the world. And he says to me, give me some Yiddish words, because I taught him mensch, seichel, what else? A couple of words in Yiddish. Cup. And he went to the president, and the president knew all the words.
Oh, really?
So it shows you how great Clinton is in terms of his study of humans, human beings, and cultures. He says, I thought I was going to go and have some fun and teach the president some Jewish words, and he said, gay avec,
Oh, he said, don't be a smut.
Don't be a smut. You happy with Bill Clinton?
I am, yes, I'm happy. I've become apolitical, as you probably know, and I was I was raised as a Democrat, New Deal Democrat, and I think I voted for one Republican in my life, and that was our ex-senator, and Javits Jake. But I think he has the right sense of what's good for the country and what's good for the people. I think he's a very political animal, like all politicians.
He's great.
No, I enjoy him. I've never met him. I was invited once, but I was in Europe, and I would greatly. We figured out. I met 7 presidents in my career. The one that I enjoyed, I knew Jack Kennedy very well. I mean, we were friends before, so that was a different kind of relationship. And I played a lot of tennis with Mr. Bush. But Harry Truman.
Oh, yeah.
When I think back about, the few times that I met him, he was remarkable. I mean, you talk about a man who grew into the job, an haberdasher and a cannon captain in World War I. But I enjoyed Harry. He was witty. And I met Mr. Roosevelt. It's Louis Armstrong. It's a legendary story. He kept calling Mr. Roosevelt Pops. It was a luncheon. And I was working the Capitol Theater Martian with Louis Armstrong, so we were invited. And he kept calling him Pops. And so his wife said to him, what are you calling him Pops? He says, well, he's the papa of the country, ain't he? I'll never forget that. But I was very privileged to know some remarkable political figures. One of my early heroes was, I was always a big fan and friend of Hubert Humphrey. I did too. Liked Triple H.
Was very close to him, Red Buttons.
Yeah, I know. And I did the last show when he was ill, and both houses gave him a big celebration.
Right.
And he asked for Sinatra to sing and for me to do the jokes, and we flew down. I see his son every once in a while, but he was a remarkable man. And Adlai Stevenson, which I always used to say was too good for the room.
He was an egghead, though, wasn't he?
Yeah, that was the word egghead. And what's wrong with being an intellect and being the president, So, but he was, first of all, I'll tell you something about Adlai Stevenson. He was probably the wittiest man in politics. Mm-hmm. He got up at a fundraiser one time, and Mort Saul was at his height. And Mort Saul went out there and warmed the audience up. It was a Democratic fundraiser. It was for Jack Kennedy. And, I mean, he killed him. He did everything there, And then Adlai Stevens came right after him, and boom, he just turned it around. The humor just flowed. He was a great wit.
Acerbic.
Very, 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 very smart, very witty, and a very, well, so, but I got old enough to know that there are no knights
in shining
armor on white horses that are going to come to change everything. I think change comes from within ourselves. I became much more interested in. There I was chasing all over the country trying to get candidates elected, and I didn't know who the head of the school was in my town.
That's a good point.
And I found that as I got older, that community interest is where it really begins. I mean, I think that people. I remember when my town wanted to build a halfway house, for rehabilitation drug addicts, and everybody in the meeting, they had all the leading citizens. Everybody agreed, but nobody wanted it built in their neighborhood. It should be somebody else's neighborhood.
It's like a shul.
Right, exactly right. So I think that. obviously voting and all that, and reading about it, taking great interest in it. But I found in the last few years I'm taking much more interest in local politics and governing.
And it's a satisfactory.
Yeah.
Tell me, if Paula Jones calls, should I take her case?
Which Paula Jones is that? I think she needs a case, or she is a case. But you see, that's there again. I mean, with this, again, quote-unquote freedom of the press. We had philanderers in the White House, going all the way back to George Washington, with his wooden teeth.
I represented...
I've never heard about it.
I represented Earl Wilson, and he had a book on the philanderers, which he was a very classy guy, and he would never give out. I saw it because I was his lawyer. But he had stuff on Jack Kennedy, obviously.
Well, everybody.
He knew it.
This seemed to have been, you see what happens now is that I think that for the service that was paid to the country by the Watergate boys, and they became, Woodward Bernstein became literally journalistic stars.
Very dangerous thing.
So what happened was, I think all the young reporters now all want to become, so they're all looking, and they're digging so deep, and it's getting dirtier and dirtier and dirtier, and it's not doing anybody any good.
You don't know how right you are. When I travel with the White House press corps, and there's about 200-300 of these guys on the plane, they think they are far more important than the president. Their self-importance will just drive you nuts.
They're looking for that one big story to make them a star.
That's right. They want a trip. It's not that they're even searching all the time for the truth. They code it and say, we're looking for the truth, but they don't stop. They don't let the people breathe. And I think Truman, by the way, he had great control of the press. He'd call them in, hey, boys, sit around the desk and let's talk a little bit.
Yeah, but nobody, you see, it was so-called a gentleman's agreement in those days, that there were certain things you didn't discuss publicly.
Well, in Israel, if they didn't have that agreement, there'd be no state.
Leave it to our boys and girls.
Moshe Dayan did pretty well out there.
Oh, he was one of my heroes, both in and out of the bedroom.
He did very well.
He was a great fellow.
If he had two eyes, I don't know what would have happened.
I was a great fan and friend of Moshe. And his wife, Raquel, I see his wife every once in a while.
Back. Alan, we're out of time. Would you believe it?
I'm out of time.
Can we get you back
yes,
and reminisce?
Yes, anytime. I love it.
So if not, we find you in Atlantic City and...
I'll be at resorts in Atlantic City at the end of September, and then at Westbury the end of October.
All right, don't forget, Allen King, he's a joy, and we'll bring him back. We got to continue this.
Okay.
Hold on, we're bringing back Joe Franklin.
No.
Find out if he's Jewish.
There is no Joe.
We'll be right back. We're back. We finished a great part with Allen King, and now we have Joe Franklin, and Joe probably knows he knows everything. I mean, Joe has had more shows than anybody else on television, and aside from that, we're finding out if he's Jewish. I know everybody's curious. Joe, are you Jewish?
Well, when you're in love, the whole world is Jewish. And as I've said before, I'm half Scotch and half soda, and I'm all 100% a fan of this program, which I've enjoyed. And I got to tell you, Allen King, nobody discovers anybody, but I gave the first exposure ever on TV. As you know, Leon, I was on 43 years. I gave the first, nobody discovers, but I gave the first exposure ever to Barbara Streisand, Flip Wilson, Bill Cosby, Eddie Murphy, Bruce Springsteen, Leon Charney, I think you'll agree.
Absolutely.
And about 10 more. Bruce, Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, and New Kids on the Block. And one that I'm proudest of is Allen King. And I was a little kid, and I went to the Palace Theater, and I saw Allen King on the bill with Judy Garland.
Really?
That's right. And I said to myself, he's got that spark.
Was he singing or?
Doing stand-up comedy.
Stand-up?
Yeah, and I spotted him. I got him on my show, and he's for comedians, he's pretty well adjusted. Yeah, he is. He's paved the way for a lot of people with the world of stand-up comedy, and he does pretty good acting, and he says he got a residual check, I heard him say, for $4.
$40.
I got a check the other day for 7 cents, a residual check. Now, let me ask you a question. That was for a movie I made called The Ghostbusters. I've done a few pictures like but when you get a check for 7 cents, what do you figure it cost the accounting department and the mailing department, the paperwork to mail out?
Probably $100.
To send out 7 cents.
Right.
Should I cash it, or should I say
cash it?
Hang it on the wall, maybe?
There's a case like that with the Internal Revenue where a guy chased him. They charged him for about $2 or $60. I don't remember what it was. They wouldn't release him, and he chased them all the way. It cost millions of dollars, thousands of dollars, till they got this thing expunged. And the state gave in. I think it was New York State. So for 7 cents, I'd probably frame it. It's not worth cashing, Joe.
I once did the choosing of the records of the music for a thing called In-Flight Airlines.
Right.
And they sent me a check one time. They didn't pay for a long time. They sent me a check one time for $11,000, and I was so proud to get it. I hung it up, Leon, on my light chain. What do you think happened during that week? They went bankrupt. So this will be the second check that I'm framing. I'm like, oh, that one and this one, right? But it's just fun.
You know, talking about hanging on the wall, I saw a piece on Seinfeld yesterday on 60 Minutes. And Seinfeld has on his wall the rejection of his series by the machers, the mavens, the one who really know everything, from NBC. And finally they gave in. They gave him 4 shows, which is abusive, really. It made him feel terrible. It's the longest running show in history.
When Barbara Streisand was my singer, I sent her out to meet everybody. Nobody gave her a break. So, because I mean, rejection is part of the scheme.
So what is it, though? You can never grasp what the public wants. Is that it?
You can't. It's
there's no way to know.
No way to know. There's no formula. I mean, Frank Sinatra personally told me when he was the head of his own record label, Reprise, and he was God. You know, he ran.
Selling.
No, he signed up 12 entertainers. Put them on his label. Not one would sell any records. So nobody could really pull a string and make it happen. But it's a murderous game. I'm glad I'm not in show business.
Well, you are. You're on Bloomberg.
I'm on Bloomberg Radio all day long, across the world, across the nation, beyond the world, in perpetuity. And I'm on WOR all night and doing
Saturday nights.
I call it Joe Franklin's Memory Lane. And I think that as we approach the millennium, I do nostalgia. As we get close, as the 1,000 years separate, I think it's going to be such a tidal wave of reminiscing and looking back, and nostalgia.
You're right.
It's going to be, I think, well, listen, I want to say, even now, 22 cents of every dollar spent in entertainment goes toward, which we call romanticizing the past. 22 cents of every dollar goes toward the past. I mean, people who buy Gone with the Wind, Citizen Kane, Casablanca, Wizard of Oz, they buy record compilations by Tony Bennett, Bobby Vinton, and Judy Garland. I think you can't knock what's current. You can't knock rock. You can't knock rap. But there's about 100 million people who don't understand when these kids sing this.
All right, let's talk about Elton John. Right. His song went platinum last week in one hour practically.
Sentimental.
And paparazzi. You know a lot of those people, Joe. What's your dig on that?
Paparazzi, I tell you, it's there's no real answer. You got to. I'm not a superstar. I'm an in-betweener. And when I walk in the streets and paparazzi stop me to take my picture, if I'm in a hurry, they actually do get hostile. They get bold. They curse. So imagine for a big, it's kind of an invasion of decency. And still you can't. They do stalk. They do prey. Prey. And it's just a question that in the old days it would be a posed studio session arranged by the press agent, arranged by the studio, and the star would pose for you. Now you've heard the same as I've heard that the paparazzi in this case they got in front of the car where Princess Di was with her fiance, and they wanted to catch her looking angry. They wanted to photograph her from the side or from in front of her. They didn't want to catch her looking nice. They wanted to catch her looking angry. That's pretty severe. That's pretty cruel. So it's just a question of there's got to be, you can't knock them making a living. I'm sure that there are many paparazzi that are nice and kind, and if they see somebody coming out of a restaurant, they see Sly Stallone or you, they'll say, pardon me, may I take your picture?
That's what Aubrey Rubin was on the show. You know Aubrey.
I know that man, yeah.
And he's a celebrity photographer, and he said he never takes a picture unless he gets permission. He hangs out at the lanes and he works 365 days a year, but he'll ask you, which I know he has done it with me.
Right.
But these paparazzi, I mean, it's a kill, by the way. It's like a gold rush, because if you get the picture, it's $2-3 million.
It is a kill, also, as we found out, with a lens instead of a gun. So it's really severe.
In all your years of television, have you ever seen a funeral like Princess Diana? Never. She had to be, and it is to this moment, the most popular celebrity probably in the history of the world. I mean, if a president dies, if Jimmy Stewart dies, he gets 3 pages. Robert Mitchum 2 pages, but ongoing. It's still going on.
Ongoing for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
What do you think that is, Joe? You would know better than anybody.
It's her kindness in touching people with AIDS, plus the fact that she was young and glamorous and people are complaining that Mother Teresa didn't get enough coverage. I mean, the answer is that she was older, and it was a difference in age, where it's more expected that somebody would die at that age. So it's there's no real answer when it's a severe tragedy.
But your take is that the paparazzi really gone too far.
I think there's got to be new rules, got to be new controls, got to be some new.
Sonny Bono wants to put a bill in Congress now.
I don't think that'll pass, but they've got to, and still the public supports it. The public is addicted to what they take. It's one of these questions.
They sell what? These tabloids, they sell millions of papers every week, right?
Not as many as they did. I mean, even the Inquirer confesses they've gone from 6 million to 2 million. But still, it's a thriving.
So what is it? People are salacious? They want to see this stuff? I sometimes don't understand it. I mean,
they run when they hear that there's a story in the paper about somebody who just died.
But why are people?
In the coffin.
Why are people buying the paper?
As you say,
Fran Drescher is on trying to stop people from buying the paper. What's his name? Clooney, the other fellow, George Clooney, tried to go on and have people stop buying the paper. It's not going to happen.
It's a vicarious. It's something where I know people who love to go to funerals where they hear that somebody died, their eyes get a glow. I could almost name names of people who like that stuff. But
let's hold it. Yeah. So, Joe. Jay Leno versus Letterman. What do you think?
I would say that David Letterman has gotten, Leno has almost double David Letterman's ratings. So I would say Letterman has gotten a little bit predictable. He's still funny, but same thing, the top 10 list, the stupid pet tricks.
I had somebody in my office who worked with David Letterman the other day. She told me he's a very, very tough personality. But I think most comedians are, don't you? Yeah, they're nervous, they're tough, and they've got a lot going for them, a lot to lose, and it's a question of Leno is not that great either, but it's just that Letterman has gotten kind of repetitious. Still, it's fun to look at him, but he needs stronger writing. But they bring dollars in, right? Oh, they bring in big revenue. Now cable is cut in, the penetration of cable, well, that's cut into network TV, and I don't see any new hits this year. You mentioned Seinfeld, but nothing big since then, really. What about day shows? Barbara Walters, The View, I don't think is off to a very auspicious start. Just a question that there were so many talk shows. There were so many. I mean, everybody. When Rosie O'Donnell came on and got popular, the theory was, here, now no more dirty linen, no more schlock, no more tabloid TV. Now Rosie O'Donnell paved the way for nice, friendly TV. Then 100 people came in with nice, friendly shows, and everyone flopped. So it's not a matter of schlock versus pap. It's a matter of the personality. That's it.
They're flopping left and right.
I told it to Elliot Gordon, one of my producers here.
Elliot's a good man.
The whole idea of a talk show host is the talk show host. And the basic thing is let the other fella talk. You don't have to be a star all the time. And not to have notes in front of you. You do your show so ad-lib, so beautifully. That's and it comes back to that I did see most of that show with Aubrey, with the photography. He was very charming. I was racing home in my cab. From the paparazzi. Cab driver says, thank you, Mr. Griffin. I enjoy your show, Mr. Griffin. So I gave him a nickel tip. So he thinks that Merv Griffin was cheap. Where is Merv Griffin today? He's dealing hotels, huh? Owns the world. What he deposits a check, the bank bounces. Mike Douglas, where's he? Also very wealthy. He lives in California. Yeah, plays golf. He was a true pioneer. He was presented and packaged by Roger Ailes, who's the head of Fox TV now. Right. Used to be a political consultant. Big. He taught all these. And he was MSNBC or CNBC. Yeah, he taught Nixon how to talk. Taught a lot of presidents their TV mannerisms. Joe, how's the book going? Up Late with Joe Franklin. It's selling. The reason I'm here is that's going well. But I wanted you to know that my right-hand man, my left-hand man, my sidekick, Richie Ornstein, has done a book called Flatten Your Tummy. And maybe all right, let's bring him on. I could use that. Does you want to come in right now? I think we can. Richie, welcome. Flatten Your Tummy. No gimmicks, no gizmo, no gadgets.
That's right. We try to do it the old-fashioned way. Yes. You were training with the police. You were a policeman. Yes. And we have a bodybuilding show, Mr. and Ms. New York's finest. That's for the best physiques in the police department. That's to inspire cops to stay in shape, to get in shape around the country, not just in New York.
Is Joe your best example?
Joe is, let me tell you, we'll walk with Joe. We do some speed walking, and we went with Ed Koch one time. Joe is ahead of all of us. Joe dropped about 20 pounds recently, and he's doing fantastic.
I've said what I've said many times, Leon. The only exercise I really get is being the pallbearer at the funeral of people who used to exercise. I'm not a workout man. He does 8 hours a day, 4 for him and 4 for me.
How many hours a day you work out?
I work out between an hour and a half and 2, 7 days a week. And if I get an opportunity, I'll do another cut in between.
Always at gyms?
No, I have it in my home, and sometimes I go to a health club. It depends.
And what do you project if someone does this? They're going to live longer?
Not necessarily. I mean, we try. There's no guarantees, Leon, in anything within life. I mean, there are men that were health fanatics. The man that inspired Jack LaLanne Paul Bragg, B-R-A-G-G, lived till 95 years old and died of food poisoning in a health food store. Yeah. Jack LaLanne is celebrating his 82nd birthday right now, and he's in incredible shape. It's up to the individual.
Still working?
Oh, absolutely. Every single day he works out 2.5 hours a day, and his workout is extremely tough. He could wipe somebody out. He wiped out Arnold Schwarzenegger in 10 minutes.
Well, you've trained a lot of celebrities, haven't you?
Yes, over the years, yes, I did.
Name a few.
I'll start with the most important. Joe Franklin.
All right.
That's number one. And then
I wish I could repeat in my own life what's Jack LaLanne's beautiful quote. He's got the same waistline now that he had when he was 23, and the waistline is 23.
28 inch waistline his entire life.
Same,
and that's the way he is today at 82. Reverse the numbers. I trained with Jack LaLanne naturally, Joe Franklin, Malcolm Forbes, President Nixon,
really?
Bob Guccione, Whitey Ford, Mickey Mantle. Oh, very, very nice, very nice. I set up a gym in his home.
After he was president?
After he left office.
In New Jersey?
In New Jersey.
You set up a gym for him?
Yes.
Carl Icahn?
Carl Icahn, yes, very nice man. He keeps himself very good.
Well, Nixon was interesting?
Very interesting, very nice man, a real gentleman. And his son-in-law was there, and just good people. He wasn't interested in being a bodybuilder. He just wanted to have something for the family to stay in shape.
All right, what about diet? Do you know much about diet?
Well, diet's important. It's like this. Exercise is king. Diet is queen. Together they're a kingdom. You have to do both. You can't do just exercising without diet and expect results. But the reason why I have a book like this, no gimmicks, no gadgets, no gizmos, is because everyone's getting ripped off today. You're a lawyer and you understand that. You turn on the TV, they're going to tell you,
right,
you're going to have a trim waistline in 3 minutes. If you could do it in 3 minutes, am I going to spend an hour and a half a day in the gym?
No.
There's no magic to it.
Especially if you're Jewish.
It's true.
No way.
There's no magic to it. So the idea is that you want to get somebody in shape, reasonable shape, not to be a Mr. America or Mr. Universe, but just doing it simple, natural ways.
We're going to flatten our tummies with no gimmicks and no gizmos, no gadgets. Richie Ornstein's book.
You and I have been jogging through the years.
Yeah, we've been jogging through each other. Joe, we got 30 seconds. You got to close the show for me.
I went to a funeral recently. No joke. I went to a funeral recently, and somebody looked into the casket. They said, "This man looks so terrific." His wife said, "Why shouldn't he? He jogs every day." Let's always do these things. I may begin an old nostalgia radio station if we do.
Right?
If we do, we'll all be on hold 24 hours a day doing.
Richie, you're still producing the radio show
with Joe Franklin all the way. And just one thing you asked about Jay Leno and David Letterman. Let them watch Joe Franklin. They'll all be tops.
We agree. Joe, pleasure. Thanks. See you next week with another show. Can't beat this one. We say it every week and we try.
New York, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem,
Leon Charney travels all over the world and interviews all kinds of interesting people.
Cairo,
the Leon Charney Report is about people, places. It's not just a talk show, it's an action show, an informative show with people from all over the world. It's about politics, current events, entertainment. It's the Leon Charney Report.